Calling all technology coaches. Join Fort Edge this summer for a 2-day coaches camp packed with high-quality professional development exclusively for you. Attendees will work with like-minded coaches on creating strategies for teacher relationships, executing coaching cycles, and building a culture of coaching and tech integration within their school or district. There are 2 opportunities to attend Coaches Camp this summer. Join us either June 25 and 26 in New Orleans prior to ISTE 2022 or in Cincinnati on July 28 and 29. Please visit fort-edge.net/coachcamp to reserve your spot today. And I'm Justin Thomas, and this is the Restart Recharge podcast, a podcast by coaches for coaches. We bring the tips and tricks to help you in your everyday work as an instructional technology coach, or whatever they call you in your school district.
So hopefully you're going to leave this episode with us today feeling just a little bit less on your own coaching island.
And just a friendly reminder, you heard that Coach Camp promo at the start of this episode. You can get $50 off by using the code RRPodcast in all caps. So make sure that you register for Coaches Camp. And just a reminder, one of our great sponsors for Coaches Camp is Book Creator. And that leads us into today's episode. As on this episode, we are joined by Book Creator's very own Jon Smith. And listeners of this episode are going to be able to hear from a technology integrator who turned into Book Creator, teacher success rep, and one of our own coaches on the many creative ways that you can use Book Creator is one of our favorite tools. You'll be sure to walk away with all the ideas for your own use and how to share them with the teachers that you work with. So let me introduce Jon Smith. Jon Smith is currently the Teacher Success Manager for Book Creator and an Apple Distinguished Educator, class of 2015. Jon was a special education teacher for 12 years before spending 7 years as Technology Integration Specialist for Alliance City Schools, where his digital book projects have attracted attention for their global reach and practical approaches to integrating transliteracy practices into the classroom. Jon organized 9 global digital book projects in which classrooms from around the world wrote and published digital books. He is married with 3 children. He is also a scratch golfer, and in his spare time, Jon details cars. You can connect with Jon on Twitter at the iPod Teacher. So once again, thank you, Jon Smith, for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. That sounded really impressive. I'm glad I had somebody else write that bio for me. Makes me sound way cooler than I actually am. So thank you for having me.
No, not true. We are glad to have you. And I have the pleasure of introducing our very own Lisa Kuhn with us here again today. You've heard her fairly recently on the podcast. She's been with us a number of times. She likes to switch her bio up on me every time to try to trip me up as I introduce her. So here we go. Let's see if I can do it without stumbling. Lisa is currently the instructional design coach for a suburban urban school district of about 5,000 students, PK through 12, and over 300 educators on 5 campuses, which is recently shrunk down from more than 5 campuses. She is a certified Google trainer and has presented at conferences ranging from locally run High Aims to nationally attended ISTE. Those who have been following the podcast know that Lisa is the beret-wearing, kayak-paddling, adventurous coach who thrives on trying new things with her teachers and coaching colleagues. One of her longest-running collaborative efforts has been with Book Creator, ranging from young second graders writing about a favorite historical person to upper-level high school literature students writing their analytical essays and even conference-going educators. Lisa enjoys helping both students and teachers bring their stories to life through Book Creator. So Lisa, welcome back. I am super excited for you to get to share some of those little preview snippets that we got to hear about in your bio with our listeners today.
Thank you. Yes, I am too, because Book Creator has just absolutely changed the lives of so many of my teachers. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Oh, I love that. I'm already getting all the feels and the juices. Okay.
I'm writing that one down so I can send that to our marketing team.
Yeah, feel
Excellent.
free to quote at will, Jon. Okay, so Jon, we are going to kick it off with you since you're kind of a special guest here today. We'd love to hear a little bit more about your background in education and kind of what's the path that ultimately led you to now working for Book Creator and helping so many teachers find this great tool.
Yeah, so I was a special ed teacher for 12 years, mostly 5th and 6th grade. Every once in a while, they threw a kindergarten class in there, I think just to make sure I was still awake and kind of keep me on my toes. And so I really enjoyed that. And towards the end of my time as a special ed teacher, that's kind of where the book creator story for me started. And so I'll come back to that in a second. But then after I left special education, I became a tech integration specialist coach. Every year they gave us a different piece to the end of our title. So I don't even really know what I was. But I enjoyed technology, and I talked with teachers and coached teachers into using technology, right, all the time. And so I did that, like it said in my bio, for 7 years in Alliance here in Ohio. So yeah, so that's kind of my background, right? That's kind of where I started. And then how did I get to where I am today? Again, it kind of started, I guess almost 10 years ago. 12, well, no, I can't do the math. I'm not a math teacher. About 12 years ago, about 2010, I found Book Creator. And this was one of those kind of, I don't know, epiphany kind of moments that I had. It was kind of one of those moments where, I was in a bad spot, right? Like in my career, my kids were not good kids, right? They were really struggling with, I don't mean not good. Kids are all good, right? But they were struggling with learning. Some of them were violent towards, other kids and me.
A tough year.
It was kind of a bad situation, right? And I was trying to find, like, how do I fix that? kind of like so that I don't get hurt or like retire at 24, right? Like I was like, how do I change that? And I remember going on to the App Store on my iPad that week, like the very first time like the App Store came out, and you could go, no joke, you could go to the App Store on a Thursday and there would be 5 new apps, and that was it. And it was like way back when, right? And I was so excited, and I saw a Book Creator, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of interesting, right? I've always wanted to make a book. This might be the hook I need to get my kids excited. And so I went in and basically told them, like, hey, we're going to write a book. They're like, no, we're not. And I was like, look, before you throw a chair at me, this is why we're going to do this. And they're like, why? And I said, because I want the whole world to see how bad your writing is. And they were like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, we're going to publish your book for the whole world to see. And the kids are like, wait, that sounds kind of silly. And I was like, yeah, I just want everybody to see it. And they're like, well, if we're going to make a book for the world, don't you think we ought to make it good? And so like we had this like this moment where like we're all like, wait, time out. Like that's all it took? Like, I mean, I literally almost quit my job. And all I had to tell you was that I was going to take your garbage writing and show the whole world, and then you would change. And they're like, yeah, like that's it. And I was like, wait a minute, I can keep teaching. This is good. So I took this idea of them writing a book and sharing it. And I remember apparently nobody was doing this at the time. And I shared it out, at the time through Apple's bookstore using Book Creator from the iPad. And these kids got thousands of downloads of these books in a matter of weeks. And everything just changed, right? Like everything changed. And I realized at that moment that as teachers, like, no offense, but like we're not really that good anymore, right? And especially now. I mean, that was like 12 years ago when YouTube and all that stuff wasn't even really important. Mm-hmm. But now a global audience is huge right from the start, right? These kids, they've got 10,000 YouTube followers before we even eat breakfast. And we're just like, dude, take it home and stick it on your fridge, right? Yeah. Like, and they're like, that's not good enough. So they're trying to figure out ways to make all of this better. And so that was kind of my start. And 200 something books later and 100,000 downloads later and, whatever, like I still enjoyed using Book Creator with my kids and sharing it with other people and going to conferences and coaching teachers into using Book Creator in their classrooms and things like that. And it was just because I loved it, right? And then at one point, the Book Creator became available on Chrome. And there was a tweet that Book Creator sent out. And they're like, we're looking for somebody to join our sales team, which they didn't even have, in Bristol, right? And I sent Dan, our marketing guy, sent him a text message, and I was like, tell me about this job. I was like, I'm not moving to Bristol, but tell me about it. And so then, no joke, like 5 minutes later, get a text from our founder, and he's like, we just had a staff meeting, and we were talking about you. Let's have a phone call. And so we started talking, and again, when Chrome came out, we didn't really know what to do because everything had been iPad app up until that point. And it was all taken care of, right? And so now we went to a subscription model. We didn't know what we were doing. And so they hired me, which is great, right? We've got a company that we weren't sure what we were doing, and we hired a guy who's a teacher who didn't know what he was doing. And that's how we started, right? With the whole subscription thing.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah. So it was funny because, like, no joke, I would teach all day, and then I'd go home, and from like 5 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night, I'd be doing like sales, right? Like trying to help out. And it was crazy. And then after about a year and a half of that, it was like, look, let's just make this official. Come join Book Creator. And so I did. And I've been there ever since. And I think, Lisa, I can kind of get a sense already that she loves Book Creator, and she uses it with her kids and teachers a lot. And for me, that was the easy part of the move, right? Because I completely believe in Book Creator. And if I didn't completely believe in it, I wouldn't be working here. And so I really do love it and appreciate it. And I think it's game changing.
Yeah, I love so much. I feel like there's like so much to unpack. I could dig into and ask you more about what you said there. No, I love it. It's always really cool to hear people's stories, and especially when that passion is there for you. So that's awesome. So. Kind of a one follow-up question for that though, from kind of we're getting this like inside information to your inside look into Book Creator. So what is from, whether it's kind of like your perspective or sort of like this is the Book Creator mission statement, whatever the company line is here, I'm just interested in knowing like what is the moonshot goal for education from Book Creator's perspective? Like at what point would you guys get there and be like, we have arrived, like here, this is what we wanted?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I mean, if you go to our website, like right there on the front, it's like create, read, publish, right? And I think in a nutshell, right, that's a simple answer. But I did put it into our Slack channel, right? Because I was like, I want to hear what everybody else is, like, what are your thoughts? I was like, I have my own, but like, what are your thoughts? Yeah. And so I actually looked it up. So I have it here. So our founder, right, this is our founder's moonshot goal, is for every student to have an education that engages, enthuses, and prepares them, right? But that also, it's also for teachers to have support to deliver that, right, to the students, right? How do we support teachers to deliver that goal, right, that prepares them? And we want kids to look back at school, and we want them to, as a time of excitement, right, and potential, and not that they weren't at the top of their class, right? We don't want kids looking back being like, ugh, I was 175th in my class, right? We want them to look back and be like, you know what? I love school. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to miss it, right? And I want to take that learning that I had in school and move it into my life. Like that's kind of our moonshot goal as a founder. And so it was interesting because he's like, well, what's yours? Like, I want to hear what you have to say. And so it was funny because I put in that I want us to be able to provide a platform that all students and teachers can share their story, right? Because I think we all have a story to tell, and I want to be able to get that out, and that we, that we are able to share that, right, regardless of our background. And so our founder, he sent me a message back. He goes, I love that. I think that's true. He goes, but wait, don't we already do that? And I said, we do, right? Like that is what we do. That's what Book Creator is. And I said, but the reason for me that it's a moonshot is because not every teacher is doing that. And what I have found is that as teachers, and I was the same way until I published books, I feel like teachers a lot of times we're kind of in a little pocket, and we think that what we're doing isn't that great. So it's not really worth sharing, right? It might be great in my classroom, but it's just my classroom. And so I realized that it's like that old phrase was one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So what I think is not that great in my class, somebody else might really love, and it might be that earth-shattering moment that changes their life. And so that's why I think it's really important that we as teachers share our stories and share the stories of our kids.
I love that so much. Thanks for sharing that, because I know that for me, when I feel like the reason you went to Book Creator, right? Like things I use and engage with on a regular basis, I like to feel, like I like to believe in them and feel connected. So I think it's cool just for educators and for coaches and our listeners to kind of hear, because I think a lot of us believe in Book Creator, but to see behind the scenes there and a little bit more of the humans that are behind it, making it all happen. it's nice to just get an insight in that and feel a little bit more connected to it. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Well, obviously, that was a fantastic moonshot goal. And I really like the fact that you said, it's kind of what's happening already right now as well, but you're kind of shifting it to let's get everyone on board with it. So what advice would the two of you, both as coaches, make in order to get the most out of Book Creator? So what are some creative ways coaches can use Book Creator? And is there any resources or certifications that Book Creator has to get all of the teachers so we can get your moonshot goal here, Jon?
Well, I know for me as a coach, the resources that Book Creator offers are absolutely fantastic. They have an entire Discover library where you can search by grade level, by content. There are samples for SEL, for digital citizenship, whatever it is you need to get across, there is something out there for it, which is amazing. I also like, you touched on the support side, and I just want to put a plug out there. When I was first starting Book Creator, and you're such a celebrity now, Jon, you may not remember this, but when I was first getting started with Book Creator a couple of years ago, I actually got to have a phone call with you where you talked me through some things and how it could be used and how to get the students and teachers involved, and it was just wonderful. So reach out to the people at Book Creator if you have any issues or questions, or I don't know, or, it's just, they're there. You guys are there, and it's been an absolute joy to have that resource available. So that's where I would start with it.
Well, well, first of all, thank you for that. I think we really pride ourselves in trying to get answers right to people as fast as possible. And I know when I was in the classroom, if I had a problem, right, and the internet wasn't working, I'd catch the tech in the hallway, right, and this was not an alliance, but in my other district, I'd catch the tech in a hallway and I'd be like, hey, the internet's not working. They're like, did you fill out a ticket? And I'm like, no, the internet's not working. Like, how did I fill out a ticket?
How am I supposed to do that?
Yeah, can you come fix this? But that's, for me, people make fun of me, right? Book Creator people make fun of me. They laugh at me all the time. They're like, Jon, it's 3:30 in the morning. Why are you on Slack, right? And I'm like, because the thought popped in my head when I was on the way to the bathroom or something. I don't want people to have to wait, right? I want people to have answers when they need answers. And so I feel like the team does a really good job at doing that. So, and I also wanted to piggyback on the resources thing. Yes, I love our resources. We have a ton. And I think what's even more important than the resources itself is just the fact that, writing it's not just for English language arts teachers, right? It's not just for reading teachers or creative writing teachers. Everybody can write, and everybody should, right? And every classroom should have some sort of writing component to it. And so we have tons of ideas for using Book Creator across the curriculum. So yeah, that's definitely a great place to start.
Yeah, and I want to kind of piggyback on Justin's question and dig a little bit deeper, because I think from that coach perspective, I think a lot of times, whether it's a coach or it's a building leader, right, like modeling these tools for educators can be super important. So are there creative ways that you have seen coaches or non-classroom teachers use Book Creator, whether it's like in a presentation or, to collect whatever it may be? Could each of you maybe share something that you have seen from that non-classroom teacher or student perspective that's been kind of cool ways people are using Book Creator?
Yeah, for me, that's always like my favorite thing, right? Is what are the new ways that people are using Book Creator? What are the out of the box kind of thinking, that people are using? And I always love having like webinars. I call them Stump Jon webinars, right? Where it's like you come up with something and I'll show you how you can use Book Creator, and like just try to trick me, right? Because it's not going to happen. Like I have a way to use it for everything. And so I think from a coaching standpoint, one of the things that I've started hearing recently is teachers using Book Creator as their own portfolio, right? So documenting their own learning. What webinars have you attended? What was your learning from that? What do your staff meetings look like? Can you have somebody videotape a lesson in your classroom, right? And put that into Book Creator and then do reflections on it and that kind of stuff. So from a coaching standpoint, I think you could clearly use Book Creator as a way to document that learning process.
And it's interesting because as a coach within my coaching cycles and coaching the teachers, I have not used Book Creator a whole heck of a lot for things like that. But one of the ideas that came to mind as I was mulling this question over was, we're always trying to create handbooks for teachers, handbooks for the building. Why not make it a book creator?
Yeah.
Book creator is a book. So even thinking inside the box, we're always trying to think outside the box. Let's think inside the box and use a book platform to create the handbook that we are trying to share with everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember when I was in Alliance, I kind of laughed because like one of the first days on the job, like, it was like year 2, first day on, of year 2, and all the special ed teachers are out in the library, right? And in comes the special ed director with like one of those like warehouse wheelie carts with like a pallet of binders. And I'm like, I look out and I'm like, what is that? Right?
Yeah.
And they hand out this special ed binder that's like 18 inches thick. And I was like, what in the world is that? And they're like, this is our sped binder. And then like to make matters worse, the special ed director was like, okay, can you please take out pages 100 through 150 because they're outdated. So here's the packet that you can put in its place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there has to be a better way, right, to do this.
Yeah.
So why not put all of the special ed requirements and forms and documents and things you need into a book so that you can send out one link and nobody's going to the chiropractor after carrying their link, right, to their next meeting. So like I was like, why couldn't we do that, right? Newsletters, right? Open house videos and documents and things like that. I have a school district that is using Book Creator for all their English language learners and families. So every time a new parent comes in that doesn't speak English, they create a book in that parent's language that gives them all the information that they need. I'm waiting for a guidance counselor to create that. I forget what they're called, but like the course.
The course listing.
Yeah.
Right?
Course
for
catalog.
Like the next year. And so it's like as a freshman, it's like, oh, what do I get to take in 10th grade? And they give you this PDF that's 400 pages long, and all it says is Algebra 2, and it says like one sentence. Why not have the photo of the Algebra 2 teacher, a video of a lesson, and like a commercial, right, for that Algebra 2 teacher saying, this is why you should take my class. And this is why that Algebra 2 teacher's not that good. So you should come in here. Let's have fun with this, right? School doesn't have to stink, right?
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Oh, I love that. You could even have like students talking about the classes too. That is super fun.
Right. We should have like buttons, right?
Right. I love
Calculus
it.
AP.
Yeah.
Right? We should have reviews and stuff so the kids can see what they're getting into.
I love it. Have either of you ever used Book Creator from a coach perspective, like presenting professional development to anyone?
Yes. So I first used Book Creator to present myself. I created a little comic strip book and presented me to the high school. And then just recently, Anna Marie Reinhardt and we co-collaborated on a presentation called A Tale of Two Coaches. And so because it was based on a novel, we used Book Creator to create our own novel and presented it at McCall this year. So that was a lot of fun.
I want to see that, by the way. That sounds super cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, and it's great because you can obviously put the text in there, which is what we did. We had it was very text rich for people who would want to read it again later to hear what we had talked about. But we were able to embed other items and resources that were connected to the stories that we were telling. And that just is a huge plus to have those resources available.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things that I did is we created a PD menu in Book Creator so that the teachers in our district knew what resources we had available, right? Because sometimes teachers don't know, right? They're like, well, we don't know that we have Book Creator, or we don't know that we, had a Padlet account, or like whatever, right? So we created a PD menu that said, here are the things as a tech integration team. These are the things that we can offer. Here's samples, of completed work. And if any of this is interesting to you, come see us and we'll talk you through it.
These are amazing ideas.
I know. These are all amazing ideas. I'm trying to take notes on what's going on here.
I know. We're like selfishly taking notes so we can go back and do it ourselves.
Yes. So I was just thinking, I'm harvesting. I'm planting my garden here, and I'm going to be harvesting many of these ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So let's say you've got that garden planted, you got all these really good ideas, and you're out here using it as a teacher or as a coach. You are sharing it with teachers and helping them co-teach with it. Are there any certifications that you can earn through Book Creator as a avid user of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our Book Creator Certified Authors course, which is built right into the system. So once you've created an account and you go to the teacher dashboard, there it is. It just says certification. You can click on it. Right now, there's 14 videos, and they're all a minute and a half to 7 minutes, I think, at most. Watch the videos, pass the quiz at the end, and then you become a certified author, and you'll have like that deep understanding of how to use Book Creator. And I also say get it done now because we just revamped it. We've made all the videos for the revised version, so it's going to be longer. So if you want shorter videos, do it now. Because at the end of the month, there's going to be like 25 videos, I think. So just get it done. But no, what I like about it too is I've actually had some teachers say to us things like, "Well, do you have like videos for kids?" Right? And most of the time I'm like, no, because I don't think I said anything dumb enough that requires me not to let a kid watch it. Right? I think they can watch all the videos. It's fine. But we've actually had some teachers who actually do the certification in class with the students, so the teacher and the kids are learning together at the same time,
cool.
which I think is phenomenal. I think
That's
it's a great idea.
awesome.
Yeah, because I've used that course for some of the teachers. So I'm in 5 different buildings 4 days a week. So I'm not with all my teachers every day. So if I have a teacher new to Book Creator, I will send them to that course and say, hey, go through this before we meet. It's not going to take you that long. But that way they have a good understanding of Book Creator so that when it comes time to plan the lesson and plan how we're going to use Book Creator in the lesson, they know what they're aiming for. And it's been a big help.
Smart idea.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's take a moment break here to hear from our sponsors.
Looking for a program that reaches all teachers in learning new tools to integrate in their lessons? Edu Badges is the answer. Edu is an anytime, anywhere badging program that is designed to take bite-sized tools for instruction and teach teachers how to use them. Edu has received the ISTE Seal of Alignment for educator standards, and each badge in our expanding library is aligned to the ISTE standards and the SAMR model. Learn more about the program that teachers call addicting at forward-edge.net/edubadges.
Instructional coaches support teachers, students, administrators, and really everyone in the district. In fact, research shows that instructional coaching is one of the most impactful forms of professional development that results in improved teacher instruction and student achievement. But who is supporting the coach? Forward Edge provides multiple year-long mentorship options recommended by the Google for Education Certified Coach Program to help you gain the valued support you need as an instructional coach. Visit forward-edge.net to start giving PD to the ultimate PD providers.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here on the Restart Recharge podcast. We are talking with Jon Smith from Book Creator and Lisa Kuhn, one of the instructional design coaches here at Forward Edge, about all of the amazing ways. So far, we just dug into so many ways. Justin and I are taking notes like crazy on our little show notes here about how we can use it as coaches and to help support our schools in a number of different ways. So we're going to pivot a little bit from that coach perspective. And Lisa, you kind of teed it up really nicely for us to segue with that last piece of advice about when you go to meet with a teacher as a coach, that you'll send them the link to Book Creator's amazing library of resources so they can kind of dig in to explore it, and then you can plan lessons together. So we would love to hear about some of the coolest ways that you both have seen Book Creator used in the classroom, and would love to maybe get kind of a wide span of like some different examples from like different content areas, different grade levels, to kind of help some coaches if their brains aren't going on fire already with all of the ideas that have already been shared. Let's be sure to give them some good ideas so that they can take back to help support the teachers that they serve.
Wonderful. So one of the first projects that I experienced here in my district was with a 2nd grade teacher. She was working on historical figures in a social studies project. And she wanted a new way of presenting those historical figures. So we got those 2nd graders into Book Creator. And she's now a 3rd grade teacher who's still using it in many, many different ways, a couple years later. Probably the two most interesting ones, though, that I've experienced were actually with my high school English teachers. I had a pair of teachers who were teaching, their eyes were watching God. And they always do their analytical essay. And the one teacher emailed me and said, Lisa, I am tired of reading essays. I need something different. And this is a very high standard teacher that you would not think in a million years would do something creative like Book Creator. She was all in, she and her partner. And so what we did is we created, each chapter was going to be one of those requirements from her analytical essay. So if she had a character analysis, that was one chapter. She had the symbols analysis, that was another chapter. The reflection that the students had. Each of those was a chapter in the Book Creator, and then they also had their title page, their table of contents, and so on. And she said those were the best essays she's ever gotten. And part of it, I think, was due to the fact that the students got to have that creative side, including visuals, or she had a couple of artistic students that drew the backgrounds to the pages. Just some really amazing things that went into that. About a week later, I get an email from her husband, who's also an English teacher at the same high school. And he's like, my wife loved Book Creator. Can we use it with Shakespeare? Absolutely.
Nope, that's where we draw the line.
It's off there. It's off.
We said Book Creator is fun. We stop right there.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up he wanted to do comic strips, where the students were rewriting a comic version of one of the plays that they had read. And so we did comic strip versions of A Midsummer's Night Dream was one that they had to choose from, and Macbeth was the other, I believe. And again, some phenomenal work because they had that creative option. So it was a lot of fun.
I love it. And Lisa, if I could ask a follow-up question, John, before we hear some of your examples. So you talked about like with second and third graders and then with high schoolers.
Yes.
And I think something that that makes Book Creator so amazing is that it is so easy to use no matter the age. Which is like an awesome like way to get our youngest kiddos into using technology in really authentic ways. But I'm just curious because I know like I have heard from some like teachers of older students that think like, oh, my students might not like this because they know that elementary students use it. Like, was that a conversation that was had? Was that even something that was brought up once they saw what was available? And John, you might even be able to speak to that too, because I see you nodding your head for those folks who cannot see John right now.
Yeah, I keep thinking I'm on a webinar,
Right.
and I keep my head making motions like it doesn't matter. I could be in the bathroom right now, and nobody would care.
Yeah.
You guys would. But the you know what I think what's interesting about this is that that's probably the sweet spot, right, of Book Creator, at least in the minds of teachers and kids, is elementary. Right, they're like that's where Book Creator should be used, right? And it's just not, it's just wrong. Like, because it can be used for everything. And for me, like when I was talking with high school kids and high school teachers, you know, if I ever got pushback, right, they were like, oh, this looks simple, right? And you're like, it does. It is simple, right? It's not hard to use, but don't confuse ease of use for lack of rigor, right?
Yeah.
Because there are so many ways you can use Book Creator. And if you're a 12th grader and you make a book that looks like a kindergarten kid made it, maybe you could step your game up, right? Like maybe you could make something better than that. And that's what I love about Book Creator. And actually I've made a note about this too, is I think what makes Book Creator so awesome, right? In Lisa's story, where the kids were like, yes, we want to do this, right? And then the husband was like, yes, I want to do this because I see how excited my wife and her kids are, right? I want this too. What makes Book Creator so awesome in my mind and so easy is that it's self-differentiating, right? It's self-differentiating for kids. It's self-differentiating for teachers. And so if you have a group of kids who can't spell, so what, right? We have the speech to text. If you have kids who can't read, that's okay because we have the play button and you can have the book read to you. There's so many accessibility features that anybody can use, right? Like that UDL lens. There's so many things that anybody can use that it doesn't matter, and kids are going to figure this out, right? And one of my favorite examples of that kind of mentality is my own children. And so last year, I don't even know, maybe it was not, whatever, right? When they were all home, right, with me, well, I'm trying to do 10 webinars a day, and I've got 3 children running around the house. There was one day where I had enough, and I was like, listen, just go get your iPads, and here's what you're going to do. And this will keep you busy for half an hour, right? Like, I was like, I want you to take 10 pictures around the house, and I want you to write a sentence in Book Creator and just tell me why you took that picture, right? Like, just something simple. Just go do this. And so my kids at the time were 11, 7, and 4, right? And I was like, all right, they can do this. So my son, who is 11, he was like, look, I can take pictures, I can write sentences, no big deal. Done. Daughter, who's 7, she's like, I can take pictures, I can write sentences, but it ain't going to look pretty, so I'm going to use the speech to text, right? So they can help me spell it the right way. Done. My daughter, who's 4, comes in and is like, I can take pictures, I can put them into a book, but I can't spell, I can't type, and I don't really, sometimes I don't speak real well, so the whole, speech to texting doesn't work out so well. So she just used the audio record button. And they did this on their own. I didn't have to tell them anything. They just figured out which tools they could use to show their learning. And I thought that was really fantastic. So that's what I think is really powerful, what keeps kids and teachers coming back. It's easy. It's self-differentiating. Kids are going to love it because they're authors, right? They're not making a presentation. They're authors of a book, which is just a whole different mindset, right? It's just fantastic.
Yeah, and absolutely agree with all that. And to kind of go along with the original question too, Katie, I didn't get many questions from the high school or pushback from the high school teachers because I had a creative writing teacher and then a social studies teacher also dive right in and use it. It was a country project where they were researching countries in the social studies class. Hold on.
Technical difficulties.
Yes, technical difficulties. The microphone was sliding down my body. And I figured you might not be able to hear me after a while.
Yeah.
Most of my questions actually came from the younger level teachers with, is this going to work in my classroom because I'm not an English teacher? And so what we now have is, I think, the second year for one and the third year for another, where 3rd and 4th grade teachers are using it in their nonfiction lessons for science and social studies. So we've got students creating reports about natural disasters and habitat. And it's been amazing because, like Jon mentioned, they find the tools that work for what they're trying to get across. And they're finding things that the teacher's going, Lisa, did you know this did this? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But, the kids are using them in amazing ways that we have not sat and taught them for 30 minutes or an hour. They just go and they find it. It's wonderful.
I love it. And I love the little community that you're creating too, with all of the different grade level examples and content area examples. And I'm sure that now that you've kind of started that, sharing some of those examples might even be helping get other teachers on board. So Jon, would love to hear, because we know that you see, books from classrooms all over the world. What are some of the coolest things that stick out in your mind for classroom projects?
Yeah. For me, I love seeing from young kids, especially, right? Especially kindergarten, preschool, because I think that, generally speaking, people are like, preschool kids, kindergarten kids, they can't really write books. They can't, that's difficult to do, that kind of stuff. And it's just not. And I love seeing kids and what they create. One of my favorites was a kindergarten class that I worked with years ago. Where the teacher they were talking about numbers, right? They were learning about numbers. And so the teacher was just like, hey, take your iPads, go out in the hallway, find numbers all over the school. And so you've got a class of kindergarten kids just running around the school, taking pictures of numbers, and then coming back and putting them into a book. Say, I see a 5 on the door. I see a 7 by the drinking fountain, right? This is great stuff. So the kids are finding learning. So I love any book that does that, right? Where kids are taking the learning that they had in the classroom and bringing it into the real world somewhere, right? I think that's awesome. Another favorite book that I remember seeing was an AP Euro yearbook. And so it was awesome because it was like most likely to try to take over the world, right? Like Adolf Hitler, right? And so like it had all these like European, important European figures, and it kind of like transitioned it into what it would look like if there was a yearbook, right? So it's kind of like if Hitler could tweet, right? Like that kind of thing. Like what would he be tweeting? And so it's like if there was a yearbook, like for these people around the world, what would it look like? So I think that's a really awesome one. Another one that I really enjoyed, and it's kind of shameless, I guess, self-plug, but one of them was a group of autistic boys that I worked with. And the teacher warned me, she's like, look, they're autistic. She's like, they got trouble writing, they've got social skills issues, things like that. And I remember the very first time I met them, I came into the classroom and they came running into the classroom and they see me and they're like, oh, right? And they like put their head in the corner like, we're not talking to this guy. Who is this weirdo, right? And I was like, no, listen. I was like, I heard that you guys are really bad at writing. The kids are like, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was like, and I heard that you like really bad at social skills, which is like why you're looking at your feet and not looking at me, right? And they're like, yeah, that's true, right? And it's like, so let's fix it. And so we ended up writing a book all about social skills. So it was really great. Because I was like, look, what are some social skills you guys are not good at? And and they were just kind of like, I don't know. And I was like, and the teacher's like, I got about 10. She's like, how about like eye contact, right? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I was like, so let's do a book, right? What's bad? Like, what's the wrong way to have eye contact? What's the right way to have eye contact? And the kids are like, oh, this is cool. They're like, well, how do we make a video of the wrong way? And I was like, you just be yourselves. I was like, just do what you normally do because you're not looking at me now, right? And they started laughing. And so we did this, but this book was so powerful because they started getting downloads and other kids like saw this transition with them. And so these kids were like, hey, you guys wrote a book? And they're like, yeah. And they were showing like where in the world it was downloaded, and it was awesome because these kids now started having friends in the general classroom that they probably would never have talked to before. And one of my favorites, though, I have to say this. There's this other kid. His name was Zion. He comes into the speech teacher and says, like, hey, Mrs. P. She's like, what? He goes, I heard you're writing a sequel to the social skills book. And she's like, yeah, we're writing it. He goes, I can help. I got skills, right? And she's like, okay. So this kid was a general ed kid. He showed up for speech every Wednesday at 12:30. It was probably against the law, but he was like an honorary special ed kid, right? He just showed up. And he worked with them to create the second volume. I mean, it was great. So just anything where kids are working together is fantastic. Collaborating together is awesome. Sharing their stories, working on things that they're not great at and trying to make them better. Those are my favorite kind of books.
Very cool.
Those are great examples. I have an example too. I'm gonna toss in. From one of my coaching cycles, I worked with a high school multiple abilities teacher, and we were trying to kind of brainstorm what were some challenges that he saw in his class. And he said, well, my students were trying to start writing a story, and they just aren't interested in writing the story. So I'm trying to find a way to kind of, how to get them interested in it. I said, well, why don't we use Book Creator? So I showed him what Book Creator was, and he was blown away. He was like, this is going to be awesome. So he told the students a little bit about it, and then I went in and did some co-teaching with them on kind of some of the overall features and everything, and then it instantly clicked for them. And they were excited to finish writing the story and then jump in and actually like illustrate their story, add the pictures, add the drawings, and really bring their story to life. So Book Creator came to save the day on that one as well. So he definitely enjoyed that.
I think that's awesome. Well, real quick, to kind of follow up with that. Like, I think for me, I was never really good. I was never a good reader, right? When I was a kid, I'm still not a great reader. I'm not a great writer. But I think what is awesome about Book Creator is if you do have kids who say things like, well, I don't like to read, right? Well, that may not be true. You just haven't found the right book, right? And if the right book isn't out there, then guess what? You can write it. You can write a book that you want to read. And I think that's a really powerful idea.
Agreed. Well, Jon, every end of the podcast, we always ask what are our top 3 tips from each of you. So why don't we dive into that? What are the top 3 tips for using Book Creator? Lisa, let's start with you.
Okay, so my first tip actually comes from the teachers that I work with. They are scared to death to let their students and themselves use the comic layout because they figure it's going to be all the panels. So my first tip is choose the comic layout because you have so many more editorial creativity options than if you don't. It doesn't mean you have to create a comic strip. You just have some creative options there. The second thing kind of goes along with a lot of what we've talked about today. Flex those creative muscles. Think outside the box about how it can be used. We want to think inside the box sometimes, but think outside the box. Like, I love that, what would these historical people tweet?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is such a cool one. That's so awesome. I wish I had it when I was teaching French, because Napoleon, I'm sure, would have had some great ones.
Oh, yeah.
As would Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. So that's Louis the 16th, Katie, just in case you didn't recognize the French.
Did not, thank you.
And then my last one is subscribe to the newsletter and check out the weekly webinars. I know I personally do not have time to read everything in every newsletter or check out all the webinars on a daily basis, but the tips and tricks in there that I glean from even skimming when I don't have a chance to read the whole thing are incredible and get me headed in new directions. So definitely check those out.
Awesome.
All right, let's see here. I didn't prep this one. So here's tip number 1. Get out of the way. Your kids are going to come up with some awesome stuff. Just get out of the way, right? Let them do it. It's going to benefit you in the long run because you're not going to have to read 25 of the exact same thing. You're going to have fun reading it, right? You're going to enjoy what the kids have. And so that's tip number 1, is just get out of the way, let them figure stuff out. Because I do a webinar called The Book Creator You Never Knew, and it's all like hidden tips and tricks and stuff within Book Creator. And honestly, 87% of the stuff that I teach in that webinar is stuff I learned from a second grader. So just get out of the way and let them figure it out. They're going to love it. They're going to have fun. And kind of to piggyback on that, tip number 2 is give your kids a creative place to go outside of the assignment. All right. And so this is an interesting one. So one of the things I get from teachers all the time is, hey, I thought I had 1,000 books and it's telling me that my library is full. Like, why? I have 25 kids. Why is my library full, right? Why can't they make any more books? Well, it's because your assignment is over and the kids are so excited about Book Creator and making books that they're going back into your library and making books on their own time. And they've filled your library with narratives and personal stories and all kinds of, sorry, my phone's ringing. All kinds of, I was hoping it didn't start ringing on the computer. There we go. So give them a creative space, right? If you have the chance, make an extra library for your kids so they can go in and make their own books on their own time and you can monitor it and see the cool stuff that they're doing, right? Just have fun with it. And then the third tip that I have is think about using Book Creator not necessarily just as a writing tool, right? But think about it in lots of different ways. And so, Lisa, what spurred this thought is you mentioned you were a foreign language teacher. I think you said French, right? Mm-hmm. So what I love about Book Creator is all of the accessibility features. So if I make a video, I can turn on captions, all right, which is really awesome. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is that you can do captions in 120 different languages. So if I were to speak French in my video, I can turn on captions in French. And so it will do the captions automatically with all the accent marks and all that good stuff. So I have my video with my French captions. However, if you think about it a little differently, you could make your video in French, have the French captions, or enter the captions manually in another language. So now it's like subtitles on Netflix. So now I've got my video and I've got in French and I've got English subtitles, right? And so or vice versa, I can have an English video with French subtitles. And so one of my foreign language teachers in Alliance, she used Book Creator as her final exam. And so she put a book together where she was doing the speaking in French or Spanish, and then the kids had to add their own videos in, replying to what she was asking them. And so that way she knew if they knew what they were doing. And so she used it as a performance kind of assessment for her final exam. So get out of the way. Give the kids a place to kind of play around and do some stuff, and then check out like the accessibility features because they're awesome.
Awesome. Those are excellent tips. And Jon, I don't know if you're ready to share this based on our conversation before we hit the record button, but would you like to share your latest social media that you have joined in your idea so listeners can follow you there?
Absolutely, because I'm desperate for followers. So I have been a Twitter person for as long as I can remember.
Amen.
I don't remember what. And that's where I float, right? That's kind of my comfort zone. I don't have Facebook. I have Instagram just so I can look at people's clean cars. Like that's kind of it, right? I don't really do a whole lot. But I was playing around with it, and I was nervous because I'm old and I wasn't sure I should do this, but I did create a TikTok account. And so I have come up with a brand new segment on TikTok. I think I'm going to claim it until somebody else does. But I have on TikTok the brand new book creator TikTokinars, right? So these are like 15-second, 45-second webinars because that's all that we can handle right now. And so they're just quick webinars with tips and tricks and ideas. So if you're on TikTok, yeah, it's the same as Twitter, the iPod teacher. You'll be the first follower if you get on there right now because nobody follows me. But it's fun, and I'm just trying to figure out ways to get people excited about Book Creator. And so Book Creator TikTokinars with me and Charles the Cow, which is not going to make any sense to anybody who's not watching.
Well, to explain, John has a picture of a cow behind his head while recording.
Yeah, and it's strategically placed so that the cow ears and horns come straight out of my head, which is a really interesting conversation when you're trying to sell Book Creator to students.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that after we were done recording. I figured you knew, but I was just going to make sure that I wasn't losing it. So
that's probably a story for after the record button stops, and I'll be happy to share it. It's about 2 minutes. It's a good story.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I know Lisa's computer is about to restart on her, and that brings us to the end here. So thank you both so much for being on. I do just want to give, an extra shout out for Book Creator here. They are a sponsor for our coaches camps that we are offering this summer for instructional coach training. And they have just been wonderful. So they've got some giveaways for all of the attendees. And they are one of the reasons that we were able to bring the cost down for attendees as well too. So just want to say thank you, and kind of in the spirit of, only working with what you believe in. We only reached out to companies and organizations that we believe in here in our work and use regularly to partner with for Coaches Camp. So we were thrilled that you guys saw the value as well. So we're really excited about that opportunity to work with Book Creator for our Coaches Camp this summer.
Awesome.
And once again, RR podcast in all caps if you want that $50 off there as well. Well, it sounds like Lisa's computer's getting ready to restart and recharge.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Right? Yeah,
we're not going to try to do sound effects this time.
We don't know what sound effect it is, so we'll just do it, in person here. But as a friendly reminder, 2 weeks, the next episode is going to drop, so make sure that you are in tune for that. A special thank you to both Jon Smith and Lisa Kuhn for joining us here on this episode. Thank you once again.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yep, this was great.
So be sure to subscribe to Restart Recharge wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RRCoachCast. And if you're thinking about it, we would love a rating and review to help other coaches find the podcast.
Yes, please. And if you have any topics that are on your mind that you would like us to talk about, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know what those topics are on any of those social media outlets.
So press the restart button.
Recharge your coaching batteries and leave feeling equipped and inspired to coach fearlessly with the Restart Recharge podcast.
A Tech Coach Collective.